Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm still having my D&D cravings, so in today's video I will be designing my very first character when I started playing this game. And her name is Zefal, the Tiefling Pirate Fighter. Now, before any of you guys say anything, I am aware of the swashbuckler subclass for the rogue, so it makes sense for the pirate backstory. At the time, I remember being confused and stumped with what character I wanted to do, but I did have like a sort of general idea on her backstory, which led me to figure out her personality. I was also new, so my decision of creating this character was basically what I would have chosen in a video game. And what I mean by that is I like to be more melee and aggressive because I find it to be more fun that way. And so I decided to go with the fighter class and the great weapon fighting style. I was told it was a good starter, so that's what I went with. When she reached level 3, I believe I went with Battle Master, where you do maneuvers and gain superiority dice to enhance combat. I thought it would be pretty cool to do some tricks and some sick combos with these maneuvers, but I don't really remember what I did combat wise, unfortunately. So unlike Kira, who I revamped in my previous video, by the way, you guys should check it out. I talked about her previous designs and her previous backstories and what changes I made to make it better. I also have done like 3 different speed paints in one video for her, so definitely go see it. I've actually fleshed out Zefal with her backstory and personality. I even built up a scenario in my head where she became a captain herself. More on that later. I'll try not to get too detailed with the backstory just so my video doesn't get too long, but I don't want to be too summarized either. So to start off with her backstory, Zefal has been an orphan since she was a baby. Nothing was known about her parents, nor did she really care, so she ended up living in an orphanage for a while until she decided to run away because she just hates the harsh lifestyle there. She was an angry kid growing up, which is to be expected having to live in this very harsh and rough upbringing. So she constantly gets into fights with other kids or adults and stole just to get by. One day, Zefal bumped into a man in a pirate coat and had attempted to steal from him. Unfortunately, without her realizing, she got caught by other men and was unsuccessful with her attempt to steal him. Rather than getting turned to the authorities or possibly worse by these pirates, though I don't really see them being like buddies with the authorities anyway, so that might not even be an option. But anyways, rather than having to deal with a severe consequence, the pirate, the captain I guess, in the pirate code, took a sudden interest in this kid and decided to offer her a spot in this crew. She was hesitant at first because again, the stranger who she tried to steal from suddenly wanted to give her a spot in his crew, like what the hell. But she soon accepted it just so that we can like speed up the summarization or whatnot. Either there was some sort of deal between her and the captain, or she just simply wanted to get out of there because the way that she's living and where she's been living, it's just not good for her and she'd rather just get out. Nevertheless, she's part of the crew now. Over the years, Zefal was taught the lifestyle of a pirate by the captain and his crew and grew to love the ocean. Because of that, this resulted in the two becoming very close, which leads to like a father and daughter bond. Once they've grown really close and got to understand one another a bit more, the captain then began to act more honestly with Zefal. The main reason why Captain wanted Zefal to join his crew, the Sea Dragon, I forgot to mention the crew is named the Sea Dragon, but when I made her in the beginning, I never gave the crew a name. But anyways, why he wanted her to join the crew was because she reminded him of his kid self. He too was an orphan with a rough upbringing, and he had no guidance to help him throughout life until he himself joined a pirate crew and developed his own as he grew older. He wanted to share everything he had learned and experienced with Zefal and have her become his first mate because he knew she'd be the one to take his place as captain. This definitely took Zefal by surprise because she didn't expect to have this high praise from the captain and then offering her to be his first mate, it's definitely a shock to her, but with such a great honor, she knew she couldn't let him down. Sadly, this actually created conflict amongst the crew. You see, the captain already had a first mate before bringing Zefal on board. However, the captain saw something in his first mate that made him cast extreme doubt. He noticed how power-hungry and greedy the first mate had become, desiring to pillage every region of the Forgotten Realm and be the richest and most powerful like the gods. Now, it is typical for pirates to just want to raid and be rich and whatnot, but with the first mate, I imagine it to be like to the extreme, because he wants to be like a god. He thinks he's better than everyone, even the captain, though of course our first mate won't really say it outright, but it's kind of showing it through his like emotions and whatnot. Like, the captain is not dumb. He noticed his lust for power from all the experiences he shared with him. It's pretty obvious. Unfortunately, the captain had to keep it a down low, knowing that he would be outnumbered by his own crew who shared the same mindset as the first mate. He couldn't tell Zefal either, because for one, she's brand new, and he knew that if he had told her, she would have done something and did it recklessly because of how loyal she is to the captain. As a result, he decided to teach her everything he learned as captain and hoped to the gods that she would turn the tides and get rid of the first mate, whether it be killing him or just simply casting him out or whatnot. But I think he preferred him to be gone from the face of the earth. However, the first mate, who was pretty observant of the captain and Zefal, noticed how close they were and made assumption that he would be replaced, which honestly was true. This angered him greatly, so he decided to come up with a plan to start a mutiny, and that's where shit hits the fan. One night, while everyone was asleep, Zefal, who was also alerted by this sudden sound, decided to go check up on what was going on. She realized there was a massive fight between the crew, a coup. Among the battles, she found the captain fighting these traitors and rushed to aid him. Despite being outnumbered, Zefal fought to save the captain and just like use all her might and strength just to like get closer to him. Suddenly, the first mate, who caught her by surprise, rendered her prone with sudden magic. Basically, the spell Hold Person was casted, and Zefal became paralyzed for like a specific duration, and she failed her wisdom saving throw, so that's unfortunate. Unable to move, she had to witness some of her comrades be slaughtered one by their own crew, and the captain, who found Zefal in distress, got distracted and attempted to save her. Unfortunately, because he was distracted, the first mate managed to overpower him and rendered him restrained. Once the massacre was over, the traitors put Zefal and the captain in binds and forced them on their knees. The first mate towered over the captain as he would give him a peace of mind, quote unquote, of how he had changed to be a soft weakling, all because he cared for Zefal, who he believed doesn't belong amongst them. He then confronted him about the plan to get rid of him and how foolish he was to believe that Zefal was the key to accomplishing it. Zefal, obviously, she was screaming and struggling to get out of the restraints, and with like tears beginning to well up in her eyes. The captain, who remained stoic throughout the first mate's villain monologue, looked back at Zefal and shared his last words to her with a smile. Never stop fighting, take what you believe is rightfully yours, and wear it with absolute pride. Before the first mate plunged the sword through his heart and killed him instantly. Zefal, who had witnessed her captain die in front of her, felt as if half of her heart had been ripped out of her chest. Tears kept pouring out of her eyes as she just kept staring at the former captain's lifeless body in front of her. She hadn't noticed that the first mate was walking towards her and then crouched down, like kind of like the same level as her, so basically like eye to eye. He wanted to show that the death of the captain was her fault for making him weak and losing sight of a quote-unquote greater future for the Sea Dragon. If she hadn't accepted the offer to join the crew and be part of the captain's life, he wouldn't have died the way he did. She only had herself to blame. The words of blaming her and stuff like that echoed in her head, but she was so fixated on the captain that she just didn't say anything. She was just pure shock. The first mate took pleasure in her distressed state and soon plunged his blade into her stomach. Soon after, she was thrown overboard, believing that she would just die in the sea. Zafal remembered being underwater for a while as blood was like seeping out of her open wound before everything became black. Through some miracle, Zafal suddenly woke up on shore as she heard a few people calling out to others for help. These folks, I imagine, are like fishermen, because why else would they be on board on the shore unless they're just bathing, like sunbathing, or just taking a swim in the ocean, like the beach. I don't know. And they took immediate action to rescue Zafal and tend to her wounds. She was under their care for a while until Zafal was in decent condition to basically move around and do her own thing. I basically ended her backstory by saying that she wasn't sure what to do next with herself. I mean, she had lost her home with the sea dragon, and the one parental figure she had was murdered in front of her. She had nowhere else to go, nor anyone to go to. So as a result, Zafal ended up just wandering aimlessly with no goal or destination in mind, until she stumbled upon the quest of Death Curse, which was the start of the Tomb of Annihilation campaign. So the Tomb of Annihilation was the first campaign I started off as a new player, with the DM who was also sort of new to DMing. Tomb of Annihilation takes place in a land called Cholt, which is like this remote and isolated due to this disease called the Death Curse, which is like a big thing in the campaign and the reason why the players are in the area to begin with. The Death Curse basically kills anyone who has been resurrected slowly. Like, it's just, once you're revived, you're still technically alive, but it's just like eating you away, and it just prevents anyone from coming back to life. So basically, when you die, you come back and you're slowly dying. And when you die again with this Death Curse, you're just insta death. Like, there's no revive, no nothing. And the person that gives the player this quest to find out about this curse and where it came from, they too was inflicted with the Death Curse, and out of desperation wanted the players to figure out how to get rid of this curse. Obviously, it wasn't going to be that easy because Cholt is filled with dense jungles, so definitely expect a lot of dangerous creatures, not to mention there's cults, and even freaking dinosaurs. Yes, there are dinosaurs. I remember when I played in the campaign, there's like this kind of like a gambling equivalent to horse racing, but with dinosaur racing. So that, yeah, it's fun, but it's also pretty scary because dinosaurs are powerful creatures, and yeah. So combat in this campaign will just straight up kill you, and you either have to find a way around it, or you have to be freaking lucky when you do get into combat. It didn't help that this campaign was inspired by the famous Tomb of Horrors by Gary Gygax. If you guys aren't familiar with the Tomb of Horrors, or just aren't remembering correctly, maybe this picture will refresh your memory. Yeah, it's even in the cover of the Tomb of Annihilation book, just to let you guys know that this shit is gonna be hell. But to those who don't know, like completely don't know, Tomb of Horrors has this infamous dungeon where it held like a crypt of a wizard, which by the way turns out to be a demi-lich, spoiler alert. However, you have to go through a perilous journey through that tomb that consists of deadly traps and dangerous monsters. No matter where you go or which room, like if you think you're safe, you're not, because there will always be traps here and there, and even if you just touch something, it's a trap. If you look at something, it's a trap. If you breathe, you're basically dead. Like, this campaign was no joke. Though there are some funny encounters that can happen in this dungeon. Like, for example, there's this mist in this hallway. If you go through it, literally it will change your alignment and your gender, which is like so funny to me, and it's just so sudden and so random that I'm like, okay, that's not bad. But to me, I feel like that's like the least dangerous trap thereof, just so that I guess players can have some sort of alleviation, but I don't know. I personally never played this campaign before, but I have watched some videos about YouTubers' experiences, and some of them didn't really have a good time. One of them said that the dungeon was basically a DM versus players experience, and campaigns like that don't usually go well, and it just leaves a bad impression to the DM, like bad impression on the DM. Anyways, let's get back to my character Zafal. Unfortunately, I had to dip out of the campaign due to scheduling issues, so I never got the chance for Zafal to have her ending. The idea I wanted to happen for Zafal was for her to become the next captain of the Sea Dragon. Basically, while she was in the land of Chol, she encountered the Sea Dragon when they ambushed her and kidnapped her. And this has been like years have passed, so this was definitely a complete shock. Due to me being new at the time, I wanted Zafal to basically Hulk out and fight the first mate when she found out it was the first mate, though at the time. Around that time, he became captain. But I ended up having her just be the bark but no bite, which is just disappointing for me. But at the same time, I was shy. I like role-playing, but I'm always shy to show it. I don't know. But for the sake of this video, I'll just say that her like hulking out and being angry and fought the first mate happened. Also, side note, I'm gonna say first mate instead of captain, so that way it's not too confusing between the two characters or whatnot, like the captain and the first mate. But anyways, as expected, it didn't go well for Zafal, and she ended up being poisoned by him. She was tossed out somewhere, like after being like rendered unconscious. She's tossed out and found herself on like the beach again. Whoop-de-doo. And that was that. I wanted this to be a significant moment for Zafal because after all those years of not knowing what happened to the Sea Dragon and finally seeing it firsthand, it gave her the motivation to finally step up. She even remembered the captain's last words to her, so she was going to fight for what was rightfully hers and wear it with pride for her captain. So when she encountered the Sea Dragon again, this time she has like a clear development in her attitude to fight her right as captain. And also she has like better gear, higher levels, you know, like D&D standard mind thinking, I guess. I'm gonna skip ahead and say that she won the battle, probably killed him off, and then succeeded in her persuasion role to finally win over the Sea Dragon crew. This moment that I'm about to talk about is what I wish would have happened if I were to still play in this campaign. After she gained the title of captain, she decided to pay a visit to the captain's room. As you can imagine, with the first mate being in charge at the time, the room wasn't in good condition, and most of what used to be the former captains was now desecrated and destroyed by the first mate. I want to say she succeeded in her perception check because she's trying to find something very important, and I'd imagine maybe a advantage would be nice, I guess. But anyways, she found it in the closet, and that thing is the former captain's coat and hat. In this very tender and emotional moment, Zafal would have taken that coat and hug it closely, like very tightly close to her, as she remembers all the good memories she shared with him. She would cry, and I think this would actually be the first time for her to genuinely let all of her feelings out, because she kept everything in and casted so much like self-doubt and self-hate with herself, believing that it is her fault that the captain died. But after all of that, I think this is where she can finally have closure, you know. And then after that, she will walk out of the room into the ship's deck with the former captain's hat and coat, which I think is a good segue to finally talk about the design. I've gathered a pretty decent amount of inspiration for Zafal in terms of her outfits and physical appearance. I don't think I've actually said this, but I never made a design for this character at all. I had a vision in mind while creating her, but I never physically show it through drawing until now. So in terms of her body type, I took some references of the best girl Karlak, because if Zafal is going to be a battle master, great weapon fighting style fighter, I think it makes sense for her to have muscles. Not saying I don't like those designs where you have these skinny female characters wielding these gigantic weapons, but to be more realistic, you're gonna need muscles to carry those heavy weapons, you know? Then again, this is also Dungeons and Dragons, so I think anything can happen, but I just wanted to go for more of the realistic route. And I thought Karlach is the perfect example as a reference because she is a barbarian and is a powerhouse soldier, ex-soldier, for Archdevil Zariel, and because like she was forced under her command by giving her a mechanical heart. And I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it's just such a sad backstory. Now you don't really see the muscles because the clothes I chose for Zafal ended up being baggy, aside from the weights that's being tied with like a corset of sorts and fabrics. While I was looking up references for pirate garments, I noticed a lot of them have baggier clothes. From what I researched on why pirates dress the way they did, it's usually just for like practical use, and they just grab whatever they can from raids. When you see these captains wearing these expensive looking garments, like the expensive looking coats and jewelry and stuff like that, they usually stole them during raidings. And to me, and I think it's pretty obvious, it kind of also shows like a higher status in the crew, like they're the captain, so they gotta have like all the blings and luxurious garments and stuff like that. But for like the average pirate or the average Joe, it's usually just for practical use. So with that in mind, I decided to give the typical baggy shirt and baggy pants, and I believe it gives Zafal more room for mobility, so when she swings her sword around, there wouldn't be any restrictions with her arms. Same with goes with her legs, like she can just like move around and stuff like that. But then again, like it's just mainly her arms because it's a heavy weapon, the greatsword. But anyways, and for her weights, it's pretty typical for pirates to have these belts and sashes because it actually supports their backs from what I've researched. I wasn't sure how exactly it gives them back support, but regardless, I went with it and added a corset because why not? I just think it's pretty fashionable, so I was going to add it anyway. And then I gave her a couple of necklaces. She's not much of a jewelry type of gal, but her neck seemed empty, so I added those there just to fill in the gap. I also wanted to think that during one of the raids with the former captain, these necklaces are like her rewards that she took from the raid, I guess. Now, I had to keep the fighter class in mind because without it, she doesn't really show like fighter. So I added armor to her design. If I gave her like a full set of heavy armor, it's gonna take away the pirate aesthetics in my opinion. Thus, I gave her some pieces of armor. Like the one shoulder armor with an armor arm on her right arm. Oh my gosh, so many arm. And another armor arm on her like left arm and hand. The purpose of having that armor on her left hand is that I imagine her using it as a way to like block attacks or shove enemies, and then her right hand being her dominant hand, she'll be wielding her weapons with that. Though of course, great weapons you have to do like a two wield, I guess. As far as her face and like her hair and the horns go, I did remember filling out the character sheet, like the part where you fill out the basic appearance for your character, just so players can get like an understanding of what your character looks like. I definitely went with the typical red skin, which falls under the ancestry for Asmodeus. I don't know if ancestry is the right word, but I'm gonna go with it because I mean, red is my favorite color, and so it's like, why not? It looks cool. And this was my first time playing the tiefling, so I just went with the typical red skin. Her hair, I remember I put down black, so I decided to keep it basic and keep it black. And since she's like a fighter and she fights a lot, I think it makes sense for her hair to be like in a ponytail so that way it doesn't get in the way. Originally, I wanted to give her like a bandana of some sort or like anything to like cover her forehead, but I end up not doing it because I want to show off her horns. And then for her eyes, I actually don't remember what colors I chose for her in the character sheet, so I decided to give her like this fiery gold color to make it stand out and complement her skin color. And I think it looks pretty cool that way, and whenever it gets dark, and she has dark vision. I can see her eyes glowing. So it's like, ooh, I'm gonna go with that. And then for her horns, I was heavily inspired by how Baldur's Gate 3 designed their tiefling horns. I absolutely love the details where you can see like these scattered bits of their horns on their forehead. And I thought it was a brilliant idea. So that's exactly what I did. And then I wanted to give this interesting texture of making it look rocky-ish, because I kept the ancestry at Asmodeus in mind, so it made me think of like a very hot and volcanic environment. And so that's how I went with this sort of texture. I don't know, I thought it was a pretty neat idea, and I just like how it looks, honestly, so. And to top it all off, in order for her to show her loyalty to the sea dragon, I gave her a tattoo on the neck. I think it makes her look pretty badass with it, and I think neck tattoos are cool if pulled off correctly. For the other two designs, the second one is pretty simple. It's just her wearing a cloak. I wasn't sure what color the cloak should be. At first I thought about making it brown, but I thought there were already enough browns in her designs, so I just went with a darker red just so that it doesn't clash with her outfit and just make her outfit stand out. And finally, for the third design, is her wearing the captain's coat and the hat. Originally, I wasn't going to give her a hat only because I struggled to figure out the correct angle for it, but I was so desperate to give it to her, so I stubbornly drew it until I got it, and voila! You can't be a pirate captain without the hat. It's a very important piece to the outfit, you know? As for the colors, I decided to go simple with it, like the coat. And even though a lot of the captain coats tend to be more luxurious just to show their high status in the crew, but I was also in a time crunch, so I just had to make do with the time I had left, I guess. Wow, that sounds like I'm dying. No. But yeah, so like that's basically what I came up with for the basically the how I like to envision is kind of like level 1, level like 5, and then max level. That's how I kind of envision this character sheet to look like, which is unintentional. And here is the final result of the Zafal character sheet. Oh my god, you guys, this has to be my best and one of my favorite designs I've done. I know I say that a lot in all of my videos because like I just love all my character designs, but I feel pretty confident with this one. I think I've accomplished pulling off the pirate fighter look, and I don't think you really see that often with a pirate fighter. But hey, it's D&D. You can be pretty creative with this design, you know? But I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. This one was a lot of fun for sure. If you guys would like to see more of me designing or revamping my D&D characters, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any of my videos. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye bye!